Colin Drury 2 days Tuesday, May 22, 2018, I looked down and I was full of holes. It is a year ago this month since the Manchester Arena terror attack, and Robby Potter was never expected to see the anniversary. He was stood just 10 feet away when suicide bomber Salman Abedi blew himself up during an Ariana Grande concert. The 48-year-old HGV driver was riddled with shrapnel. Yet, astonishingly, he was not among the 22 innocent people killed that night. Doctors who helped him through a 3-week coma called his survival a miracle. Today, after being told he would almost certainly never walk again, the father of 2 from the Wirral is still defying the odds. Robby Potter with his daughter Tegan. It was for Christmas that I bought my daughter, Tegan, tickets for Ariana Grande, and I don't think I've ever seen her so excited. For 5 months she was counting down the days. She was 11 and she talked about nothing else. That evening, we traveled over with my then-partner Leonora Gerio and her daughter Ashley, 18. I saw him before he did it. He stood out. There weren't many guys in their 20s knocking about. We took the kids into the arena foyer, arranged a place to meet afterwards and then waved them into the main hall. It was Tegan's first concert. I told her to enjoy it and watched her disappear. Then Leonora and I went for something to eat in Manchester. One thing probably saved a lot of lives that night, the fact the show overran. Certainly, it may have saved Tegan's. As we arrived back at the venue, I got a call from her saying Ariana was still on stage and asking if she could stay longer. I had to say yes, didn't I? What I now know is that meant she, and hundreds of others, weren't walking out into the foyer right as the idiot detonated himself there. A flash of silver light. I saw him before he did it. He stood out. There weren't many guys in their 20s knocking about. I assumed he was picking up a kid's sister. I paid no attention, really. Tegan actually went to the One Love concert. I was still in a coma at that point, and when I told her later I wasn't sure I'd have let her go, she says, "But Dad, I asked if you had any objections and you didn't reply." The explosion was a flash of silver light. It was blinding, and the sound was like gunfire. I suppose that was the shrapnel exploding out. It's hard to describe what I felt, but it wasn't pain. It was just like being prodded hard in the chest, enough so I fell. I was unsure what had happened, but I remember standing back up and there were bodies and blood everywhere. It was how you'd imagine a war zone. I looked down and I was full of gaping holes. I tried to stop the blood coming out of one and it spurted worse from another. I was like a teabag. I screamed to a group of girls, who were still standing, to run. I phoned Tegan but got her voicemail. I was telling her don't come out, find a policeman, but I was struggling to breathe. I'd started to run for cover but I collapsed. I remember lying on the floor and seeing my finger and it was hanging off my hand by a thread of flesh. Robby Potter, in hospital. It was a blur. A guy appeared saying everything was okay, but he kept asking my name. I kept saying, "It's Robby." I couldn't understand why he couldn't remember. It was only later I realized it was a way of keeping me talking, of keeping me conscious and alive. I remember someone shouting that the paramedics couldn't get through, and this guy with me was shouting that there was someone who wouldn't last much longer, and I realized he was talking about me. I kept thinking about Tegan. I asked him to call her, which he did. I asked him to get her safe. There's a hill in a park near where I live though. My goal is to walk all the way up, and I try every day. They got me out by breaking a table in the end. They used it as a stretcher to carry me to an ambulance. They said I was just in time. The doctors called me a miracle lad. They couldn't believe I'd lived with that much metal in me. It was everywhere: shoulders, chest, legs. My ribs were red with internal bleeding. One bolt embedded in my heart. A hair either side and I wouldn't be here. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. But I know I got lucky. Although Leonora, who I got separated from in the blast, sustained horrific leg fractures, both Tegan and Ashley escaped unharmed. Tegan actually went to the One Love concert. I was still in a coma at that point, and when I told her later I wasn't sure I'd have let her go, she says, "But Dad, I asked if you had any objections and you didn't reply." Rugby player Potter with former England captain Chris Robshaw: "Recovery has been hard. I needed a plate put in my chest and screws in my shoulder. Both knees were ruined. I got told I may never walk unaided, but I vowed I would. Lads at my amateur rugby club, Aldershot Rugby Union Club, and Seuss events in London raised money for treatment, so I've said I'll play again one day to say thanks. I can now do small distances without crutches, but because I've lost feeling in one foot, I sometimes misjudge the ground and stumble. There's a hill in a park near where I live though. My goal is to walk all the way up, and I try every day. Sometimes I fall over and sometimes I run out of breath, but I'm getting closer all the time. I know I'll reach the top soon. Read more about the Manchester attack anniversary. iNews https://inews.co.uk